And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. Today's package is centered on insecurity and other issues militating against development in the oil-rich Niger Delta region. We kickstart with a report on a new wave of insecurity imposed on the region by armed groups and hoodlums hijacking the otherwise peaceful EndSARS protests. Next in our lineup is a special report on implications of the delayed passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill for the future of the oil and gas industry, as well as the continued survival of oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta. We will, in the course of the program, bring you an engaging interview with Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator ENANG, who calls on governors of Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, River States to stop misappropriating the 13% derivation funds and establish, without further delay, oil mineral areas development commissions to manage such funds in the best economic interests of oil-producing and impacted communities. And finally, into this package is a report on the menace of floods in Ahoda West local government area of River State. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region will be back after this timeout. Don't go away.
Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, determined to make a difference.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. With the nationwide EndSARS protest taking a violent dimension, there's currently palpable tension in the Niger Delta, where the reformed Niger Delta Avengers have threatened to resume attacks on the country's oil assets if the demands of the protesting youths were not met. In their reaction, some youth leaders in the region have appealed to the renegade militant group to give peace a chance in the collective interests of the region and the country at large. Correspondent Chika Bodozie has the report.
In the wake of violent protests against police brutality, several lives and properties have been lost across the country. Recently, armed youths in the conflict-prone Niger Delta region had hijacked the hitherto peaceful protests to unleash mayhem on innocent citizens and security agents. In River State, hoodlums masquerading as EndSARS protesters had set a police station ablaze at Afam, where some police officers were reportedly killed. The pervasive state of insecurity had prompted Governor Nyesom Wike to impose a 24-hour curfew on Oyigbo, parts of Obiakpo and Port Harcourt City local government areas. The ambience was no less violent in Edo State, where protesters attacked correctional centers in Benin and freed inmates on Monday, October 19, 2020. To stem the tide of violence, Governor Godwin Obaseki had declared a 24-hour curfew in the state. In neighboring Delta State, some thugs set fire to government offices and property in Asaba, while others embarked on a jailbreak at the Warri Correctional Center. Reacting to perceived threat on their lives, some police officers recently staged a protest at Ugeli.
The police are protesting. Enough is enough.
In trying to quell public disturbances, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa had imposed a 48-hour curfew across Delta State. In spite of efforts by the governors to restore law and order in their respective states, tension remains palpable in the region. This follows a recent threat by the reformed Niger Delta Avengers to resume attacks on oil and gas installations if the demands of the protesting youths were not addressed by the federal government.
For me, I don't think that that's the way to go. If you look at the tempo of what is happening in the country, there are issues bordering on the well-being of the Niger Delta. Look at the chaos that is going on in the country. I think that as Niger Delta people, we need to take a position on it.
It will be difficult for the Nigerian economy to bounce back in maybe 10 years if anything happens in the Niger Delta. At the end of the day, it is always better that we judge or negotiate, have a timeline over this issue.
The call on the reformed Niger Delta Avengers and other armed groups to give peace a chance in the Niger Delta is hinged on the premise that the region plays host to critical national assets that should be protected to avert a collateral damage on Nigeria's economy.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Who is afraid of the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, and why has it not been passed into law several years after it was first introduced into the National Assembly? These are some questions agitating the minds of concerned Niger Deltans over the fate of a proposed law crafted to transform the fortunes of Nigeria's ailing oil and gas industry. In this report, the Kenamio for it takes a look at the implications of the delay in the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill for the future of the oil and gas industry, as well as the development of oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta.
The Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, was first introduced in the National Assembly soon after Nigeria's transition to democratic governance in 1999. The proposed law was crafted to replace the obsolete Petroleum Act of 1969, under whose operation Nigeria's petroleum industry had witnessed many setbacks. Under the direct supervision of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) and its subsidiaries, Nigeria's 4 refineries were left to decay for decades, making it a major importer of refined petroleum products. Till date, the investment climate in the industry has been adversely affected by incessant conflicts between host communities and oil companies over vexed issues on environmental and social injustice in the Niger Delta. In the last 50 years, lack of accountability and transparency, as well as massive corruption, have characterized operations in the petroleum industry on account of weak governance. In spite of its laudable goals, the PIB has been debated and revised many times to the consternation of industry watchers.
All the assembly members that we have had, since 1999 that democracy came to be, should be held responsible for the delay in passing the Petroleum Industry Bill. Successive executives in Nigeria, that's the federal government in Nigeria, will also be held responsible, for the delay or non-passage of this bill.
We need to run as a commercially oriented and profit-driven petroleum entity. Not just for the refineries, but also for the other arms of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, which is what the Petroleum Industry Bill seeks to address.
To ensure its speedy passage, the Buhari administration in 2015 split the proposed legislation into 4 distinct bills. The Petroleum Industry Governance Bill was given priority attention and passed at different times by 2 chambers of the National Assembly in May 2017 and January 2018. However, in August 2018, President Buhari withheld assent to the harmonized PIGB. The Nigerian leader said his action at the time was to avoid ambiguity and conflict in interpretation of the proposed law. The clamor in the Niger Delta for a speedy passage of the PIB is not without basis. In its host communities component, the bill makes it mandatory for oil companies to incorporate petroleum host and impacted communities development trust funds, through which they would make an annual contribution of amounts equal to 2.5% of their actual operating expenditures for the development of oil-producing communities. However, there are fears that delayed passage of the PIB has been due largely to deep-seated political interests.
I think it's a problem of Nigerian politics. Everybody wants to have free access to the oil industry, oil and gas industry. Government uses it, those who are in power uses it to empower themselves and do whatever they want to do with it. And they feel that if you have the right laws, they won't have access to the oil and gas industry vote. I think that's the politics that is setting us back.
Much to the relief of many observers and participants in the petroleum industry, President Buhari, upon receiving a harmonized version of the PIB, recently transmitted it to the National Assembly for speedy consideration and passage into law.
By 31st December 2020, everything about petroleum industry bill should have been closed out, including assent by the executive.
And I think that we have a very small window of opportunity to save Nigeria the hemorrhage. We've been bleeding. So we need to do it fast and get at par with the world.
Following President Buhari's recent transmission of a harmonized version of the PIB to the National Assembly, the proposed legislation has successfully scaled its second reading in the Senate and referred to 3 joint committees to critically study its provisions. At the end of their assignment in 8 weeks, the committees are expected to report back to the Senate, whose leadership has promised to make the passage of the PIB one of the legacies of the 9th Assembly. Beyond mere platitudes, the present Nigeria's federal lawmakers are expected to walk the talk and break the jinx surrounding the passage of a bill intended to transform the country's ailing petroleum industry.
Inside the Niger Delta. Heritage Bank. Service, performance, respect, integrity, innovation, tenacity, excellence. Heritage Bank, your timeless wealth partner. Looking for irresistible luxury? Welcome to Oak Haven Hotel, located at the heart of GRA Port Harcourt, River State. With a wide array of luxury rooms to offer you exquisite comfort to the VIP lounge with wireless internet services and a fully packed bar, Oak Haven Hotel also has a dazzling swimming pool, a chill-out area, and a massage and wellness spa. For your meetings and events, our conference hall and restaurant Victoria will exceed your expectations. Oak Haven Hotel, comfort you can't afford to miss.
Get to know the future. The future is ITEO.
Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator ENANG, has accused governors in the Niger Delta of hijacking the 13% oil derivation funds meant to develop largely backward oil-producing communities in their respective states. In the following interview, the former federal lawmaker specifically calls on governors of Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, and River states to establish mineral areas development commissions into which the 13% derivation funds should be channeled to promote even and rapid development in the oil-producing communities.
A lot of Niger Delta communities will believe that oil, instead of being a blessing, has been a curse. The 13% derivation was supposed to help reverse that. Would you consider that that has been successful?
Oil is a blessing, but it is the management of oil and the managers of oil and oil derivatives that have made it a curse. I say so because the federal government on its own part has fulfilled what it is supposed to do in terms of sending the 13% derivation through the state governments to the oil producing communities and to the natural resource producing communities. But instead of the money getting to the oil producing communities, it is trapped, misappropriated, and misapplied by the governors of the respective states. I want to say that with respect, that when it was 3%, the oil-producing communities had the effect of it more than when it is 13%. Because when it became 13%, it is now paid through the commission, through the governors. But the governors have used it for their governmental purposes. I don't want to descend to say for their personal purposes. Derivation principle came as an alternative to resource control. Now, this 13%, it was intended that it should be used for the development of the oil-producing communities, different and separate from the gross statutory allocation that goes to each state. In 2005, Emeritus President Olusegun Obasanjo brought before the National Assembly a bill for the creation of the National Derivation Commission. And in it provided also that each state government shall have its own derivation management commission. Edo State has Edo PADEC, Edo State Edo Oil Producing Area Development Commission. Delta State has the SOPADEC, Delta Oil Producing, or Ondo also has, others have. The three super oil producing states that don't have is Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and Bayelsa. Those three states don't have. Although Edo and Delta, which have, do not give the exact amount provided in the law, but at least they have set up the commission, they still give, and there is, that is why you have less tension in those communities. What we are working on now, my office is working, is to make sure that this oil money, derivation money, goes to the oil producing or the solid mineral owning communities where this oil money is derived. The essence is this: if we don't have that, 2021 budget is already, 2020 budget is really challenged. 2021 budget will be more challenged because the oil producing communities from which we derive this money, you'll be surprised that the oil producing communities, if you go to Ebelema, they didn't even ask for a road, primary school and a market and some other things for their children. And the oil well was shut down for over 26 months because you don't want to provide this for them. But then you don't have to blame the oil companies too much, because the oil companies have contributed what they are supposed to contribute to the federal government. And the federal government has given that money, the 13%, to the state government. It is the state government that would have applied this money for the development of Ebelema.
Let me take you back to River State, where the governor there is building 4 flyovers. These flyovers are all in the city of Port Harcourt. Now, the riverine communities produce the bulk of oil in River State. In other words, a lot of the money coming to River State for derivation is coming because the oil is being produced from those riverine communities. And there are those in River State who believe that the governor should have at least built one bridge linking the riverine communities to the city of Port Harcourt.
Is the money that Governor Wike using to do the flyovers part of his own statutory allocation, or is it part of the derivation money? Now, I know that what River State gets as statutory allocation will not be enough for him to commence 4 flyovers at the same time. It is the money that goes through River State government to the oil-producing communities, Okrika, Belema, all the Ogba, all the other communities, you know, that produce oil and bear oil, Ogdiogoni areas, you know, that the money belongs to them and not Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt will only be entitled to take what part of what the government will decide to use the statutory allocation for, and what comes to Port Harcourt from the oil produced in Port Harcourt. But if no oil is produced in Port Harcourt, you could be at the statutory allocation if there is a percentage that is given to the state in the oil mineral producing area, in the Oil Mineral Producing Area Development Commission of River State, if there were any, 5% or 10%, he could apply part of it in Port Harcourt. But he cannot apply any money that is meant, that comes from derivation for the development or building of flyovers in Port Harcourt. The idea is that the people of Okrika, the people of Onelga, the Ogonis, the Ijos, all the people who are in the oil-producing areas, whom the money that is derivation-based meant for, have to be made to stand up and ask questions. The people have to ask and sue and make sure they confront. You don't confront, you engage, Governor Wike, that this money that you are using for this flyover in Port Harcourt is not your money. It's not given to you, it's given through you for our development. Therefore, and what Wike and all the governor of Akwa Ibom, governor of Rivers, Bayelsa, and all the governors who don't want people to know that derivation money has come and it's meant for them, they keep pointing to Abuja. They say Buhari has not given. Like Akwa Ibom State, 2 months ago, the governor and their commissioners said, oh, they are weeping. They cannot do this because federal government has withheld a derivation, which is not correct. They did not withhold. They did not withhold anything. But since they have been overusing and the people are now beginning to ask questions, they say it's been withheld. But I'm glad at the level of activism, the people are waking up now and saying, look, 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 look. There is a difference between statutory allocation and derivation. Why are we in this record not having a road? Why can't we not apply the money of derivation to build the road from Eket to Ibono? Why can't we build the road from Eket to Ukwo? From the derivation money, which is meant for the development of these communities. And they are standing up now. So there is a lot of activism in Akwa Ibom now. And I'm asking the entire people of the Niger Delta, wake up and ask questions of your governor. Buhari has sent the money down to the states. And what we want to suggest now is that the solution to this matter would be this. The federal government may have to, I will urge the system to consider that we set up the derivation monitoring committee at the federal level, 1. 2, the money that goes through the states to the governors we make sure, but the federal government will have to make sure that it is applied for derivation. 3, that the oil producing, that the Federal Derivation Monitoring Commission will advise the setting up of the Mineral Producing Areas Development Commission in every state of the Federation, whether you are producing oil or gold or any solid mineral, like Bayelsa, Zamfara and Nasarawa, which are exploiting actively now. They set up their own, and the Federal Commission now makes sure that when the derivation goes to through Zamfara, that it goes to the particular area from which the gold is derived, and to Niger Delta from where the oil is derived. Then where the money fails, where they fail to set up and then give the money to that particular commission, the following month, the Accountant General be mandated to deduct the amount of failure, the amount which that commission was entitled, and pay directly to that commission for the development of the oil producing or mineral producing communities.
That was Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Ita Enang, making a case for oil-producing communities to directly access 13% oil derivation funds for their socio-economic transformation.
Inside the Niger Delta, Belema Oil Producing Limited, Oil Production and Exploration Company. Belema Oil, truly indigenous, world-class brand. ACCUSE Group, oil and gas, dredging, power and air transportation. ACCUSE Group, petroleum product sufficiency, energy sustainability and infrastructure development.
Communities in Engeni Kingdom of Ahoda West local government area of River State are now submerged in flood. At a peaceful protest to the Mbiama axis of the East-West Road, the flood victims called on the federal government and multinational oil companies to dredge the ORASHI River and carry out shoreline protection works to check the menace of coastal flood in the area. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo has details.
Go to Jankarama, come to Mbiama, go to Akioniso, go to Akinema, go to Okaki, go to the other place of Engene. And then also look look at the other zone of Orashi. We feed River State, we feed Nigeria. Why are we not given this right? Why are we neglected?
Tales of woe from a native of Mbiama, where houses have been submerged by rising flood waters. It paints a picture of a community where canoes are now the means of mobility in the streets, a scenario common in other communities close to the Orashi River. Unhappy with the state of affairs in Orashi Kingdom, the youths embark on a peaceful protest to the Mbiama axis of the East-West Road.
I will appeal that the federal government, the state government should look into the aspect of arranging a makeshift camp in each of these zones in ENGENI. Special intervention fund for the women should be looked into.
The youths recollect promises made by the government at the peak of the 2018 flood.
The Vice President issued out strong words that they will dredge the Orashi River. The Orashi River as well links the River Niger. We have about 60-something oil wells domiciled in Akugha West. If the federal government did not cushion the effect of this flood to the people of Akugha West, by the time this flood is subsided, we are going to block this very road, leading to so many oil wells.
Gas and oil deposits all over the region, but we are the least developed. We suffer a lot. If nothing is done after the flood, we block Shell and Egypt, and they must come to the rescue of ENGENI people.
For now, the greatest worry of internally displaced communities within the Orashi River is how to cope with an imminent food crisis when the flood finally abates later in the year.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Well, that's our package on the program for today. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until next week, I am Mamode Akugha, thanking you for staying with us. Bye for now.